In this video, we're finally going to be completing Delta Squad on the channel with Republic Commando Scorch. So he's been out for almost a year now at this point. I think he was released maybe at the very tail end of December of 22 in like Asia and Australia, for example. I don't think he really made his way around North America and even Europe to an extent until maybe January, February, March, somewhere in that range. And I've been playing this one off for quite a while now. I just got him in the mail a few days ago. Just given the history with the other three commandos, it seems like after several months, maybe about 6 months later, they usually go on clearance. And even at the time of this video, you can usually still find Fixer and Sev on GameStop's website, and they're usually like $18. And since Scorch was like what, $28 when he originally went up, I thought, oh well, I'll just wait on it for 6 months and then it'll go down to 18. Well, unfortunately, that has not been the case at all for Scorch. He's pretty much stayed consistently the same price the entire time. I have seen a sale with him where it was like buy one get one half off or something like that, but GameStop really didn't have any of the other action figures I wanted. And of course, if you get one half off, it's going to be whatever action figure is cheaper. And since Scorch is already one of the more expensive ones as it is, it pretty much defeats the purpose. But recently, I had to get on eBay and just go ahead and get them that way because that just seems to be the best way I can do it now. I actually got this action figure all the way from Taiwan, so I actually have been to Taiwan. It's a really good place. I think one of those hidden gems in Asia that nobody ever talks about, especially here in North America and Europe. I've been to like the tomb of Chiang Kai-shek, if you've heard of him. He was the Chinese nationalist leader back in the 30s and 40s. And of course, he eventually became basically the head of state in Taiwan up until the mid-70s. That's a pretty interesting place to visit. You can actually see his sarcophagus and the home he ended up living in later in life. Very interesting character, one of my favorites to study throughout history. So lots of neat things to see in Taiwan. What else can I say about it? I could probably go into a whole detailed spew about what it's like there at some point, but yeah. But anyway, great place to visit. If you haven't got around to it, I would suggest getting around to it someday. The whole island is a very fascinating place to visit. Lots of mountains. It's pretty warm there most of the year too. It can get kind of cool at night in the winter, but it's definitely nowhere near as bad as like the U.S. or Canada or Northern Europe, for example. But anyways, that's kind of getting off topic. So yeah, I did get this from Taiwan, and believe it or not, it only took like 5 days to get all the way here. And Taiwan for me is like 12,000 miles away, so not too bad for 5 days, and I didn't get it for too bad of a price really. So all things considered, I think I got a pretty good deal for this. Later on in the video, I will bring out the rest of the commandos and we'll see how they all look together. But at some point, I do want to do a dedicated Republic Commando video. And I'll bring out all the 3 3/4 ones I have, and then plus the 6-inch figures, and we'll see how they all look together. So let's just go ahead and dive into this package here. So unfortunately, if you're a carded collector, Scorch is going to be the only commando from Delta Squad that's going to have the windowless package. At some point, I do hope Hasbro, at least for the card collectors that is, does reissue this, and I don't see why they wouldn't. They have to know this is pretty ridiculous that all the other ones have the window where you can see the figure, and then Scorch here is the one that doesn't. And at the time, this was still at that very beginning phase of the windowless package, and you think Hasbro would have recognized that, hey, just for consistency purposes, let's make this the very last windowed package at the time. But they didn't go through with it, unfortunately. But still, that's a pretty nice image of Scorch there. Republic Commando, RC-1262. Here he is on the side here. 6 inches. There's the description for him. All the various languages as well. Figure number 18. Nice image of him on the side there. Looks like it's on Geonosis, based upon the background. and his preferred weapon is the anti-armor one. So not too bad of a package. And we'll look at the figure. So a little background in the Scorch. If you didn't know, the voice actor for him in the video game Republic Commando is the same one as Carthel Nasi in Knights of the Old Republic. Pretty interesting bit of information that a lot of people didn't realize. The first time I played Republic Commando was actually in 2010. I recall when it came out, but at the time it was more geared for the original Xbox, which I had a PlayStation 2 at the time, so I didn't really get around to playing it, unfortunately. But eventually I did get it on computer in 2010, and I think I've beat it maybe 3 or 4 times since then. It is a really good game from that golden age of Star Wars video games. And Scorch is definitely the more light-hearted Commando of the bunch, the one always cracking jokes and making light of any situation, basically. So for the figure itself, if you see my other 3 reviews of the other Black Series Commandos, it's basically the same exact thing. There are some slight differences to him. Armor, as far as I could tell, is pretty much the same thing all around. Even in the head there, the only things that might be different besides the paint are his weapon here, which is still that same small weapon, unfortunately. In fact, I have the 3 3/4 inch figure on the side here that has the same weapon, and let's see how they look side by side. So the 3 3/4 inch scaled one is at the bottom here, and then look at that compared to the 6-inch weapon. Definitely underscaled. At some point, if someone does get around to making custom weapons for the Commandos on like eBay or Instagram or wherever they do it, I do think I will buy the more to scaled weapons for these guys. I think that's one of the biggest disappointments about them, is they got these puny weapons, and it looks kind of ridiculous, quite frankly, because you have them hold their weapons in like a ready position here, and I mean, look at that. It just looks very puny. It doesn't look right. But still, the sculpt itself of it is not too bad. It's just severely underscaled. Like I said, the Scorch's preferred weapon is more the anti-armor gun here. He's kind of like the heavy weapons expert, I suppose. One thing I am kind of surprised about that they included is his extra shells here on the side, or canisters for shells, I think. Unlike the 3 3/4 inch figure that you can take those out usually, this one does not have that. I think the Toys R Us exclusive 3 3/4 inch Scorch did not have this at all, but the Saga Collection one did. As you can see, it is strapped all around his leg, and as far as I can tell, you can't take these off. So it's just permanently there on his leg, but you can rotate them around a little bit. But it is nice for Hasbro to do that. I really didn't think they would have. I figured they get cheap on that. As far as his armor is concerned, he does have some nice weathering on it. It definitely stands out more on Scorch because of his yellowish and lighter color armor. It looks pretty good. He has that nice blue visor. Another thing that's a little bit different for Scorch is he does have a unique backpack here. And it does stay in place pretty good. The fixer I have, I've been getting him out a lot more lately, and his backpack doesn't seem to want to stay at all. But so far with Scorch, it seems to be staying in place pretty good. Haven't had the problem with Boss or Sev either. As far as articulation is concerned, he's hinged in all the same places. If you've seen my other reviews, you know exactly what you're getting into. And if you haven't seen any of those yet, then I suggest you check them out. But he is super articulated all around. I don't think it's really necessary to go through it all. And he does have the flex on the shoulder pads, or the shoulder armor here. That's pretty good range of motion. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can really show you about Scorch. It's basically the same thing as the rest of the Commandos, and at this point it was just about completing the set. I've had the other three for so long, and I got so used to not having Scorch where it actually kind of feels weird now having Scorch in the collection. But let's go ahead and bring the rest of them out. I've managed to get Fixer here in this particular position. I don't know if he'll hold or not. I don't think he will, but I wish he could stay like that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have any of the... Or, actually, yep, I do. I kind of want to keep him in this position, so let's do it. There we go. That looks really good. And we got Sev here. Quite frankly, between the four, I think his weapon is probably the best one out of the four. It's still a little bit underscale, but it's definitely much better compared to the rest. And that's because Hasbro did have to do a new sculpt for it. The rest of them are basically the same weapon plus a retool. For Scorch, so there's Sev. And then we got the boss himself, Republic Commando boss. And my, does that look great. I'm glad to finally have all these guys. I am surprised to say that Hasbro got around to doing Republic Commandos for the Black Series line. I never thought they'd do it. Now we just gotta get Hot Toys to do it. If Hot Toys ever did do a Delta Squad set, or even if they did them all individually, I think I would go ahead and jump on that. There's so much potential for Hot Toys to make some great action figures. Other examples I can think of are like Darth Revan, and of course Malik and Bastila. I think that'd be a really neat thing for them to get around to it, and there's no reason why they shouldn't. Especially now that TBC and Black Series have been getting around to them. But lots of potential out there for the Commandos. I think they could really go to town with them if Hot Toys chose to. I don't know if they would. Sometimes they're kind of skimpy with the accessories for some figures, but I think they would do a good job with these, and they'd probably be the best versions of these characters that would ever be made, quite frankly. And I would happily like to get all four in the collection. So what more can I say about the Black Series Republic Commandos? Like I said, I'll do a more detailed video pretty soon here about Republic Commandos in general. This video was meant to be more for Scorch, but now it's just nice to be able to look at all four of these guys together. So would I recommend Scorch or any of the other Republic Commandos for your collection? You know, there's really not a whole lot of newness about them, I guess. They're just using the Hunter mold. If you're a fan of the Republic Commandos, then yes, these are great action figures to have. If you're not that particular about them, or you're not that partial to them, they are kind of pricey at this point. Boss, I've been looking at prices for him recently. He's actually gone up way up. And I recall just several months ago, he was down to like $11 on clearance for GameStop. Now he's like 60 or 70 at least. So that's pretty interesting. For Sev and Fixer, at the time of this video, still pretty easy to get a hold of on GameStop's site, for instance. Usually, I think they're on clearance for like $18, and they seem to be consistently staying that way for several months. Then for Scorch, be prepared to pay the normal retail price, or potentially even more, which is going to end up being like $30 plus before it's over with. So it's up to you. They are, like I said, they are nice action figures. I'm personally happy to have them in my collection. I'm always a big fan of the Republic Commandos, and now it's time for TBC to get the Republic Commando treatment. I'm surprised they haven't gotten around to it at this point. And you think there'd be a lot easier repaints there. They could just do the standard Commando and then do a troop builder pack of that, and then do some other odd repaints here and there, like Fee Scarada. And Fee Scarada could also be in the Black Series at some point, but we'll see. Lots of potential there. I hope Hasbro gets around to it, but only time will tell. But as far as Scorch is concerned, he is a very nice action figure. You know, it's really hard to say which one's my favorite of the four here, but like I said, I'll do that in our video at some point. So I'll go ahead and leave this one at that. So that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be lots more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always greatly appreciate all your support. Check out some links in the description if you haven't done so already. And as always, thanks for watching.